A group of 15-year-old boys named Dan, Randy, and Barry talked about where they should meet for dinner. They agreed to meet at the McDonald's next to Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. They only had $6 between them. They could ride their bikes, and a cute girl from social studies lived on the same street, so they might see her. 10 years later, at 25 years old, the group talked about dinner again. They agreed to meet at Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. The beer was cheap, the bar had free snacks, the house band was good, there was no cover charge, and there were lots of cute girls. 10 years later, at 35 years old, the group discussed dinner plans. They chose Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. The booze was good, it was close to their gym, and if they went late enough, there would not be any whiny little kids. 10 years later, at 45 years old, the group talked about dinner again. They agreed on Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. The martinis were big, and the waitresses wore tight pants. 10 years later, at 55 years old, the group discussed where to eat. They picked Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. The prices were reasonable, they had a nice wine list, and fish was good for your cholesterol. 10 years later, at 65 years old, the group talked about dinner. They chose Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. The lighting was good, and they had an early bird discount special. 10 years later, at 75 years old, the group discussed dinner plans. They agreed on Captain Jack's Seafood Grill. The food was not too spicy, and the restaurant was handicapped accessible. 10 years later, at 85 years old, the group discussed where to meet for dinner. They agreed to meet at Captain Jack's Seafood Grill because they had never been there before. Ben and his friends were hanging out, mapping out an upcoming hiking trip, and getting excited about fresh air and mountain views. Ben could already picture himself on the trail with his buddies. When he mentioned the trip to his wife, she immediately looked worried. She had always been overprotective, and the idea of Ben hiking in the wilderness made her anxious. "I don't think this is a good idea, Ben. What if something happens? What if you get lost?" Ben tried to calm her down, explaining that they had done trips like this many times and knew exactly what they were doing. She still was not convinced. Eventually, she put her foot down and told him he could not go. Disappointed but smart enough not to argue, Ben texted his friends and said he would have to sit this one out. The following week, when the group arrived at the meeting spot, they were stunned to see Ben already there. He was sitting casually, smoking a cigar, smiling from ear to ear, with his hiking pack resting on his knees. "How did you talk your wife into letting you come, Ben?" "I didn't have to," Ben said. "Yesterday after work, I went home and dropped into my chair with a beer, feeling miserable because I couldn't go hiking. Then she snuck up behind me, covered my eyes, and said, 'Surprise!' When I pulled her hands away, she was standing there in a beautiful see-through negligee. She said, 'Carry me into the bedroom, tie me to the bed, and you can do whatever you want.' So, here I am."